It is May of 2022, which means it is World Meditation Month. Did you know that, Sage Robbins?
You know, you informed me. Hello, everyone.
Well, we are like hurtling toward the halfway point of 2022. Can you believe it? Like
No,
it goes so
I can't.
fast. It feels like we were just in 2020. Why does time go so fast? Could it perhaps be because we need a little more mindfulness? We need a little more meditation in our life. If I was a little more present, would it feel like I was getting everything out of these days? What do you think?
Well, gosh, that's a beautiful question. I think the gift of meditation is it brings us here now. It's calling our attention back to this moment. In life, through busyness and through external activity, we can miss the beauty of the simplicity of moments that life is offering us. And I think that's the beautiful blessing of having a practice is it starts to tune our awareness or our attention to this moment here now.
I like when you call it a practice because that's something that I can get my head around, like soccer practice. Let me just start by saying, we jumped right in here, and I'll start by saying one of us is a meditator. The other one would like to be, but admittedly, it's like, I think it's great, although I don't do much of it myself. But I thought that we thought that would be relevant to you out there listening, because I think some of you listening will be diligent, seasoned meditators, and others will be more of my camp. Like, it's halfway through the year. My resolution was to meditate, and I still haven't done it. So, Sage, you are the resident expert in this conversation.
Well, I wouldn't say certainly I'm an expert. I feel like a baby on the path. But I'm happy to share my experience, and I definitely have a passion for it. And a lot of times I think when, I remember before I started and I thought like I had this identity, I'm not a meditator. And yet we're all meditative in moments. There's times where we slow down, and I think when we slow down, our energies naturally come towards our center. And whether it's, going for a walk on the beach, or whether it's looking at the waves, or watching your puppy breathe or play with a toy in the morning, or being with your little one, there's those moments where life slows down and there's a different level of connectivity to the moment. And I think that is meditation. I watch our little one, our daughter, every day. And honestly, she has so schooled me. I mean, she'll literally sit in her high chair sometimes and just gaze off into nothingness. And I don't know what she's experiencing, but it amazes me because that's a very meditative state.
I mean, I can do that.
You do. And I think that's a beautiful gift for those out there that are saying, I'm not a meditator, or you, Mare, that believes that you're not a meditator. There is the formality of, having a sit or having an intention of sitting down. And we're going to certainly discuss that today. But gosh, I've done all sorts of meditations, walking meditations, nature meditation, breath meditation, heart meditation, mindfulness meditations where that's more active. There's, dynamic ones where you dance and, you experience your energy up high and then you allow it to, drop in. I think that, life is diverse enough. And what's so wonderful, it's not one particular path for anybody. I think that's what's so beautiful. I think that's what's so meaningful about us coming together and having a conversation is, we're coming together and bringing our life experience. I really recognize it. I really believe we all are in moments when we slow down enough to notice what life is offering us here now.
Okay, I have a few things to say to that.
Okay.
Number one, you and Tony often tease me that I'm kind of the slow one around here. In fact, my nickname, my mascot, my spirit animal is often the sloth.
Yes.
Which comparatively to Tony Robbins and Sage Robbins, I think I'm not doing so bad. It's all relative.
It's beautiful.
However, even as someone whose nature might be a little slow and watery, my thoughts seem to never move faster than when I actually sit down and try to meditate. And as Tony would say, with anything that you're undertaking, what's the first question you should ask yourself is, what is your outcome? What is what's your outcome? Said differently, what's the result that you're after when you sit down in that chair, kneel down, however you do it? What do you, I'm asking you too, like what is the result that you're after when you stand up from meditation 15 minutes later? How do you know that you've accomplished what you set out to do when you went in there in the first place?
I don't know that it's necessarily a result per se. I think there's a lot that's happening in the realm of invisible forces. I mean, yesterday we were having a conversation getting ready for this, and you had mentioned that, I think it was Stanford, had said that meditation benefits peace or affects your blood pressure.
Every great reputable university has said it. Harvard said it, Stanford said it, Oxford, anything, Mayo Clinic. There is no shortage of proof, scientific evidence that meditation it can lower your blood pressure, it can reduce your stress, it can add gray matter to the parts of your brain where you want gray matter and take away it where you don't. Like it's not like I need another reason to do it. I'm just not doing it. Yes. I just find every excuse, and it's often like, hey, I'm not good at this.
Well, a couple things. I want to, I'd mentioned earlier about not necessarily having a result, even though I think there are many gifts of it. But the majority of the time, it's just to be here now and notice what this beautiful life is offering. Another is also, helping to unravel thoughts. Thoughts that are no longer serving, and to meditate on one's, my own response or reaction to something, to have more of a sincere or broader perception of a moment or of a interaction. That's an active and a dynamic and a living meditation. And I think that, from that perspective, that helps to create space. So, rather than result, maybe it's just the benefits and the gifts. There's tangible and intangible, and you can speak about the science, or I can speak about my experience. But I think that when there's so much demanding our attention externally, I think it's a beautiful gift to give to oneself, to come back to this moment and to notice, even close your eyes and to hear your own breath, to connect to, I'm alive. Here in this moment, and my body's being breathed. That's a miracle, And so sometimes it's the simplicity of that gratitude that reconnects or recalibrates for myself. So I don't know if it's so much a result as much as an experience, and that experience can be vast, especially when you drop the expectation that it should be a something, because mine might see it as a nothing.
Yes.
I don't know if that translates.
You're making me feel better, because me, I think, in life to be, I'm not a skeptical, cynical person. I'm, in fact, irrationally optimistic in most all other areas except perhaps meditation, because I sit down, and when you talk about invisible forces, it's like thoughts of certainly invisible forces. So the thought parade starts cruising by. Then it's like, oh, I got an itch on my cheek. Oh, I can't, my back hurts. I mean, and then it comes to self-judgment, because it just feels like these excuses. And then it's like, I can't meditate. That's it. I'm unlovable. I'm an imposter. I'm stupid. I mean, it escalates quickly. And I suppose, from what my limited understanding of meditation, mindfulness is that's exactly the reason why we meditate in the first place, is to become aware of the craziness of our thoughts.
I think if we're honest, we've all been there. We've all had those moments of beating ourselves up, or had those moments of judging ourselves or judging another, because mind judges, it just goes, it's constant, narrative. And so, I don't know, I think adding that extra layer of, continual defense and trying to hold up an identity. There's so much, a phraseology these days is imposter syndrome. And it's so innocent, because it's like, am I an imposter? It's like, no, I'm human. I experienced this, that, and the other. I've got a kind heart. I'm a love, and I'm grateful and I appreciate life. And sometimes I can be frustrated or be selfish or because that's part of the human experience in a moment. Yeah. Does that define me? No. You let it go and you come back home to our nature, which is love, which is joy, which is ease or grace, and extend that. And I think we're innately, internally, and our nature, we're all that. It's just, it gets covered with conditioning, it gets covered with wounds or life experience. And I think that's one of the gifts of this evolution of life is we all get to, find our way back to a deeper truth and experience, a broader perspective and kinder reality of life.
You and Tony have a friend, Ellen Langer, and I've heard her. She's people call her the mother of mindfulness.
Yes, she's a beautiful woman,
and she is the first tenured Harvard professor in the psychology, female Harvard professor, very bright woman. And I've heard her say, like, we're there, but we're not really there. Like when someone has asked her what mindfulness is, and I certainly know that feeling. And that's something like my outcome would be, I want that clarity of experience and clarity of mind and presence. And so I don't know if mindfulness and meditation are kind of all in the same. I clump them all together.
Yes.
I don't know. Tell me.
Well, once again, I can only share my experience. But when I started to meditate, to actually sit and have meditation, and I'll share exactly what I've done, at the beginning, I would, I had this expectation that it needed to be 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes. And it didn't work for me so well in the very beginning. And so I would just close my eyes and tune in for maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes. And, I'd literally think of it as like my moments of grace, because it was just like, like taking that breath and feeling actually what was going on inside and noticing the sensations and just watching. But when my eyes are closed, or if our eyes are closed and we're sitting in meditation and thoughts are arising, rather than I shouldn't be thinking that. Why am I thinking that? Why am I thinking about cleaning my closet or the sandwich I want to eat after this? Or I didn't call my mom today, And so if we, can just watch that experiences, the thought comes up, whatever sandwich I want to eat, or I want to clean my closet. And if we're not resisting that or making that wrong or demonizing that or labeling ourselves as not a meditator or thinking, why can't I do this? And I'm a failure, but just, gosh, I want to have a grilled cheese. Then it's just the thought coming up and it goes. Yeah. And then the next thought comes up and goes. And we get to watch that experience. And it's interesting because it's really more observing rather than the resistance and attaching to an expectation that it needs to look a certain way. And once again, I'm only simply sharing my own experience. But when I did that, it's like you can't effort meditation. You can't it's not something to achieve. It's something to experience. And we're all really good at doing. I mean, we'll sit we as human beings will sit for like 20, 30 minutes and scroll through social media and be all else in somebody else's business, and not think twice about, just randomly or aimlessly, looking at something on social media, but to actually say, okay, I'm going to sit and experience actually what's happening inside and connect to the gift of that reality. And I say gift because we're alive. I think for myself, that's always been my through line. Like, what? Like my body is being breathed. I do nothing for that. My heart is beating. That's a gift. If we wake up in the morning, that's a gift. And for myself, I think that's a through line of that gratitude or that awareness. And then, getting some distance of the judgments that are coming up and just watching the thoughts that come and rise. Michael Singer is a very dear friend, and he shares a beautiful metaphor of, thoughts are like clouds. And if we're outside and it's a beautiful sunny day and clouds come by, we don't judge that there's clouds, just the clouds come by. That doesn't change that it's sunny behind the clouds. And the clouds are floating by. And I think if we, having that metaphor so helped me when I would sit in meditation, because as thoughts, rose or came by, it was just like clouds floating by, rather than those clouds. Why are the clouds there? I'm failing as a, blue sky observer. The clouds shouldn't be there, which would be absurd. We don't judge the experience of nature. We don't judge what, is happening, like whether it's raining or, well, maybe we do at times. And if we do, we suffer.
Yep.
Does that answer?
That's helpful. And I think, the clouds floating by metaphor is helpful because we did actually ask on Tony's social media accounts to send in some questions. So I have a few, and hands down, the majority was, let's see, D Sharp in the house wrote, "My mind always wanders. I find it hard to get back. How do I stop this?" Jessica Lynn, "How do I stop my mind from wandering and focusing on one thing seems so hard." Maribel writes, "What to do when your thoughts wander off." Alyssa, "When it's difficult to find stillness in your thoughts." Actually, Kat, "How do you stay focused like that?" That I can't tell. I mean, there's hundreds in here. That's just a sampling, but by far that's the most common one of just like these thoughts, like But they, to your point, they're just like clouds in the sky. Yes. They are what they are. Just notice them. That word anytime I talk to somebody who's really seasoned in meditation, it's like, oh, you just notice, you just watch, you don't judge them, and you make it sound so easy.
Well, because I think, like, if I'm sitting here and I close my eyes, I'm hearing my own body being breathed. Thoughts are coming and going. Maybe I'm hearing, the fan here in the room, or I'm hearing your, papers rustling. Whatever is happening, that's the experience that life is offering. And so if there's just that little bit of, I guess it's willingness to appreciate or to just allow and accept whatever is here, and tuning into the sensations on the external, because normally there's so much happening out here that, attracts our attention. I think it's really beautiful. There's an entire universe inside of us. A whole network of capillaries and veins and our heart pumping and our body breathing. That's unreal to me. That's unreal to me. And then when it was just like, okay, embracing the reality, like thoughts just come and go. I mean, I think that's where we all meet in this human experience. We all have that reality. We all have the reality of thoughts, and they're universal thoughts. There's a collective mind. I think that's where that commonality, if you listen to any human being, it's like random thoughts come, absurd ones that it's like, wow, what does this have to do with this experience here now? But it's there, and so it is.
That's it.
And so it is.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I started out by doing like I said, 1 to 2 minutes. And I would do that maybe 2 to 3 times a day. Sometimes I might go outside and just like take a breath and close my eyes and feel nature and feel the breeze on my face and just notice that sensation of the breeze on my face. A lot of times we go outside and you're having a conversation and, we can miss, or I can miss the actual sensation of, or raindrops. The other day I had, our little one in my arms, and I went outside and, just watching her feel rain on her face was beautiful. And so I was watching her and experiencing that. I was having, my own experience and sensation of that. And it's like, like we can miss so much. And I've missed so much in my life. And I think the gift, if you talk about a result, and I don't know that it's, I'm struggling with the word result. So I don't know that that's the right phrase for me or right experience for me. But experientially, I think the gift is being more awake and aware and alert to what's happening here now. And then if I'm in life and I feel a reaction or somebody says something to me and I feel entangled in a moment, I think that's where the gift, like Ellen's work of mindfulness, it's like, okay, let's come back to this second here, this moment here, and take a breath and tune in. Because otherwise it's just, it's one thing, it's another, and it's just like life happening. And like I said, we get so caught up in the busyness. And through busyness and my own life experience, we miss the nuances, miss the sweetness. And I think that's, as having a consistent practice, and I'll share here my experience in this conversation. There's more beauty in the most simple things, when before the simple thing might have happened and I missed the moment. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to zoom out for a second.
Sure.
Because I want to give our listeners, those listening who might not know you, Sage Robbins, as well as I do, you might be listening right now and going like, she's talking about the raindrops and the nuances of life. And I thought we were talking about meditation, which to some people looks like sitting on a pillow, closing your eyes in a cave, or
that too.
Also, meditation, especially in the West, I have to say, has gotten real trendy. And everybody is in their, fancy pants and their smoothies and doing their meditation. And I don't know, like there's a part of me, I even feel it as I talk about it. There's a part of me that has not a resentment. Maybe it is. Like I feel something of like, is that the authentic experience that everyone is talking about? And even as we want, and even as we talk about the expectations of meditation, like one expectation is, gosh, I wish like my thoughts could just calm down a little bit. And another is like, oh, I want to feel one with the universe and the blade of grass and you and me and everyone we know, my enemies and friends and the animals. Like I have big expectations. And so I'm hearing you talk about the miracle of life. Can we talk about the full moon meditation?
Yes.
That we did. This again probably links back to my grand expectations for a 10-minute meditation. It was a full moon meditation. It was a full moon a couple days ago. Many folks, there was the eclipse and it was this powerful energy, and many folks do a meditation. And again, that can be a very trendy thing. And what I love about this is myself and Billy and Tony and Sage had brought it up and said, hey, do you guys want to have this meditation? So we all grabbed our little bean bags. We went out to the backyard, made a little circle of friends, and Sage had a little prayer book, and it was really intentional. I think there was a lot of joy, and yet there's also a reverence for this moon, this thing that shines in the sky. I could see how people believe that it was, godlike, like this thing that rises, and especially in its full capacity, it's magnificent. And so, Sage beautifully, you said prayers and we held hands, all of us. And then you asked us to close our eyes, and we had kind of a silent meditation for maybe, what would you say? 5, 10, 15 minutes?
I'd say 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. And we're under the moon, and I feel myself at the end of the 10 minutes. I haven't told you this, but at the end of the 10 minutes, I'm like, man, has it been an hour? Like is she ever? I wish, what's going on? And I found myself like side eye. I'm giving Tone side eye. Is he awake? Yeah, he's meditating. Billy and Billy's like, how would you describe Billy? He's Tony's trainer, and he's like this muscly beefcake I call him my little protein shake. And I'm like, come on, Billy's not meditating. He's not in it. And you close the meditation, and I look over at Billy and he opens his eyes, and he's 100% earnest. He's like, wow, like I forgot where we were right now. And I had this feeling of like, what? Like feeling left out of like, he was like bodiless and I was in my mind.
Well, Billy, I love that man. He's one of my dearest friends. And, we've had so many conversations and talked about meditation and had this exact same dialogue of his frustration of like, I sit and I'm, mind is just going. And, but that night, I think, that's the gift of this life is it's never the same. This moment we're having right now, it's like, we'll never experience this exact moment again.
So to me, it feels like you have already reaped the gifts of meditation. And with that comes gratitude and awe and wonder for this experience of life, because somehow you've gotten through, at some point, you get through the chatter and through the problems of small mind. And then it's like, it opens your eyes. And I think that's, if someone were to ask me, okay, Mary, like, what do you want? Why, if you all of a sudden started meditating tomorrow, why would you? And it's like, Tony sometimes talks about profound knowledge. And, there's a lot of knowledge, small knowledge, but there's also these things that are these insights that forever, these breakthroughs that change forever the way you live your life. And I have a belief that meditation can get you there. And I think we're given examples of really bright, extremely creative people, artists, whether it's Steve Jobs or Ray Dalio, or I'm naming names that might appeal to sort of our business-minded or achiever audience that swear by meditation. So I know that I know that the treasure chest is, the buried treasure I believe exists. And I hear you talk and it's like, okay, she's got it. She doesn't even know she's got it. Do you?
I don't know if it's got it, because honestly, I still experience chatter. My mind can still get entangled. I feel frustration. I feel, I feel all the scope of human emotions. But I think that that's the gift of the practice. It's like, okay, we're all in this thing here, in this human experience. It's a gift to be alive. And mind chatter, as you say, we'd all like to turn the volume down. Maybe that's, more accurate than through it, or, I haven't mastered that. And yet in a moment, to come back to this moment and to question my thoughts, or to just notice what I'm experiencing here now and maybe what I've missed, that broadens my perception in that moment. And therefore, life is more beautiful than it was the moment before. Because if I was believing a story or believing a thought or in my mind chatter, I'm in that reality. I'm not connected to the moment. I don't know if that translates at all.
It does. And I also am remembering what I was going to say about.
By the way, this candle is really...
Is it dangerous?
Really smoking. It's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, if you don't know Sage Robbins, like I am lucky to, let me tell you something about her. She will, sometimes we'll be at a seminar, at a crowded conference, in an airport, at a soccer game, driving at a red light. And I'll be talking to her, and then I'll look over mid-sentence and her eyes are closed. And now I've come to realize she's not sleeping. She's not narcoleptic. She is meditating. And she'll just be sitting there, eyes closed, kind of warm smile on her face. And I'm like, she's just catching this moment. This is what. So what I love about that, and what you have taught me already, is that you can do this anywhere.
Yes.
You don't have to be on a tasseled rug.
No.
On a nice pillow. And I'm learning that from you. So when people are like, this present moment, you could do it right now. Whatever you're doing right now, you could. And I also like how you mentioned before, it's whatever sounds that you hear. Sometimes I am neurotic enough that I'll hear a sound and I'll be like, oh, that's distracted me. I can't focus on my breath if I hear that neighbor's dog barking. And it's like, okay, just that's what life is giving you right now.
Yes.
Go with the neighbor's dog barking. Go with your dog barking, whatever it is. This is it. Go into it.
Yes.
And notice where your mind goes and see what thoughts come up then. So I think theoretically I'm getting closer to an understanding. And then at the same time, it's like you said, it's not something you do. It's not something you achieve. It's not something you understand. It's like this, I don't know. What is it?
Well, I think it's something that we are. And I think there's a remembrance through this process of life for us all. I think there's an unlearning and a remembrance. And it's like even just earlier, just maybe a few moments ago, I heard a phone alarm go off. And it's like, well, that's part of this experience right now.
Yep.
Yep. The smoke on this candle here, it's getting a little wily. That's part of our experience right now. If I think it shouldn't be happening, then I'm crazy. I'm suffering. I think, the gift of meditation, the gift of mindfulness, I don't know if it's, I think it's coming experientially, it's coming back to more of our nature. And that's more beingness, and, trust me, we've lived an incredibly full life. There's been a lot of doing and, have experienced a lot of beautiful things in this life. And yet the states of beingness. And what I mean by that is it's not like when we're doing something, it's just being here now, and noticing and appreciating or just experiencing what this moment offers. I think rather than this moment should look different than what it is, that's when we miss the moment. And I think that that's part of a lot of, the mind chatter was experiencing just, it's like if you close your eyes and you're willing to just, for 2 minutes, for 3 minutes, experience what you experience and not have an expectation, then whatever you hear, whoever knocks on the door, whatever thought arises and falls, it's just part of this orchestra of life that's happening, part of like the clouds coming, the sun going behind the clouds. It's like, it's perfect. It's just this harmonious experience, but it's not harmonious when, we believe the thought that it should look different than what is here now. That's that is probably the most accurate way that I can describe meditation. It's allowing, I don't even know if it's allowing, it's just appreciating, accepting. You can put any word of those, or just simply, probably even more accurately, just watching or observing, what is here in this moment.
You sit there and you close your eyes and you stay focused and you don't fall asleep.
Well, focus seems once again so like to focus. I don't know, maybe I'm projecting right now, but that feels like there's effort in that. I think, watching feels more sincere because as you watch whatever comes. Does that make sense?
Noticing, observing, witness consciousness.
That's okay. Accurate. And I think that, a lot of times, here, I'll tell you one other thing that it was a miss for me. When I first started meditation, I had this expectation or want. It's like, my mind is going to stop, or there's like this awakening. You hear about people having an awakening experience or an enlightenment experience, and everything was like out here, that felt like this result or this chase.
Yes, that's what I want.
Yes, or this chase of this something that was here. But as I was wanting this thing out here, I was missing what was happening here. And that's the seduction. That's maybe a bit of the illusion, because it's my experience that we wake up here now in this moment, and I think there's so many practices, like there's so many people from different that, are listening right now that are from different cultures or different paths of life and different experiences. And that's the beautiful gift of this human experience is there's so many choices and paths home within inside of ourselves. And, as we walk this path, I think we recognize that, we've never really left home. It's just a realization that, this is the awakening. This is the gift. This is meditation, Mary B, right here, right now. This is us living our lives and appreciating and being present to this moment. It doesn't get more beautiful than that until the next moment. I want to mention one more thing. If you're agnostic, if you're atheist, if you're a believer, what's so incredible about this is it's really irrelevant. You can still have a practice of meditation.
No matter what religion. I'm glad you're hitting on this because
religion.
That was another question that came in on social media too, and I don't want to miss it. Someone wrote, isn't meditation Hindu? In transcendental meditation, TM, you're given a Hindu holy word. I feel it goes against my Christianity. Can you speak to that? I want you to answer that because as someone who grew up in a house where my parents' first question was often, is that against the church? I can relate. And I don't believe it is, but I would love to know how you would address that.
Once again, I think if meditation is about coming back to this moment, if it's about, experiencing what's inside of you, what's inside of us is, it's a miracle. If we're a believer, then you believe that the Creator created us. So if it's tuning into that miracle, I think that's complementary. I almost look at like if your prayer, it's like a filling up, and meditation could be considered as an emptying out. That's overly simplistic, and that's not, completely accurate. But it's something that I have related to. And so I feel like the two go hand in hand in such a beautiful and meaningful way.
I do too. When I was in college, I went through a real Thomas Merton phase.
Yes.
Thomas Merton, 20th century Trappist monk, Christian monk, theologian, mystic, author. I pulled a quote from him because I just think it's so beautiful. And also he uses the word contemplation in Christianity. You might hear it you might hear it described as contemplative prayer. So contemplation, meditation, prayer, any of those words, I think whatever you're comfortable with, you can put to it. But Thomas Merton From New Seeds of Contemplation writes, contemplation is the highest expression of man's intellectual and spiritual life. It is the spiritual wonder. It is spontaneous awe at the sacredness of life. I get emotional reading this. Of being. It is a vivid realization of the fact that life and being in us proceed from an invisible, transcendent, and infinitely abundant source.
Amen.
Contemplation is above all awareness of the reality of that source. Whew. I think that's it. I don't want to put words to it.
Well, nor do I.
Well,
that was beautifully said and expressed. And once again, I think they all, life is so beautifully vast. It isn't this or that. If I pray, I can't meditate. If I meditate, I can't pray. What's contemplation? It all, it's all this puzzle piece that comes together to make the greater whole. And, for myself, before I start a meditation, I always say thank you, and no matter, whatever your religion or non-religion, wherever you come from, your background or your culture, just honoring that and praying in a way that's true for you. Or you can pray to the source that beats your heart. You can, beloved divine source or beloved creator, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this life. Thank you for surrounding me. Thank you for renewing me. Thank you for restoring me. Thank you for filling me here now. Amen. Doesn't have to be, or it could just be, thank you. But for myself, I always start from that place, and that's just sincere for me.
Let me talk to you about my expectations.
Okay. I'd love to hear
Knowing that we were coming into this conversation today, I picked a book off my shelf by your friend and Tony's, Dr. Andy Newberg. He spoke at some of our conferences before. Yes. I opened up his little book called How Enlightenment Changes Your Brain, and I'm like, that's what I want. This will make me meditate. He writes, knowledge, wisdom, science, reason, oneness, unity, ecstasy, awakening, bliss, liberation, insight, transcendence, transformation, self-realization, illumination, clarity, inner peace, holiness, revelation, God, emptiness, selflessness. I'm leaving some out. Pure consciousness. He says, throughout history, different scholars have used every one of these terms to define and capture the essence of enlightenment. And then by proxy, meditation, some have said is the way to enlightenment, to this awakening. And so I sit crisscross applesauce and I'm like, all right, let's go. Self-realized. And I see how I'm going about it wrong. And I continue to learn from you. And I hope that someone out there is smiling. Tony, in fact, told us that our last episode, he listened to, and he cried his eyes out, as Tony Robbins. If you know him, you'll know.
He's such a softie.
He's usually the first one in tears. And he said, you guys are funny, but you were a little serious in the last one. He wanted to laugh. So in an effort to hopefully not take ourselves too seriously, I will also say that I will come to you and say, like, Sage, I'm feeling crazy cakes in my mind. And to me, that means like whether it's I'm feeling anxious or scared or angry or frustrated. And so I know I'm hooked in my mind. And we've done, like you mentioned, Michael Singer. We were lucky enough to go to his Temple of the Universe here in Florida. And he talks about, like, there's the external world, and then there's the thought world, and then there's your emotional body. So there's really these three things. So if you're sitting there eyes closed, your attention might go to something in the external world, a knock at the door, your phone going off. It might go to a thought that you have, like, oh man, did I lock the door? Where are my keys? Thirsty. A thought or a feeling like, oh, I'm still so mad that this thing happened yesterday. So those are the only three things. When he chunks them like that, it's like, okay, I have these three things to contend with. I should just be able to sit here, focus on my breath, and be aware of the miracle of life. It's when you boil it down, it's like, wow, this is pretty basic. And then there's this little dictator, this psycho tyrant that is like, did you do this? You should do that. You should, that's just, and I hear it. And when I listen to the narrator that we all have, it's like, who is running the show? What is this little voice? What do you make of that little voice? Do you have that little
Of course
punk?
I do.
Everybody has that little punk in there?
Of course. We all, I think, once again, that's where we all meet. And I think that's the real oneness of this human experience, is that we all have that voice. And it's only a dictator if you listen to it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, whether it's, open the door, do this or do that, if you're listening to it and believing the thought, I think, speaking of this, I just have to share, I know I've mentioned it, her name in the last podcast, Byron Katie. She has a process called The Work and the 4 questions. And
thework.com.
Thework.com. And this is another active form of meditation. Is there's 4 questions and a turnaround. And, you do the process of actually writing it down. It's called the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And you meditate into it. And the gift of this is, mind can work so quickly and the narrative can happen so quickly that to slow mind down and to actually write it down, it's amazing because it's your own consciousness guiding you through this process. And what's so unreal at the end of this process, if you stay with it, it always is so remarkable to me what I've missed. And I think that that's the gift of meditation. It's like, when you talk about noticing, we speak about watching. It's like, what are we noticing? It's like what we've missed. What we've missed. And what's so amazing about that, I've known Katie. She's a very dear friend, by the way, and just a beautiful sister on the path. I started doing the work really seriously. I'd read her books. But I actually wasn't sitting and doing the work myself. And I probably started doing that maybe about 5 years ago. But, I meditated and noticed, I was willing to notice, or I had a desire to notice what maybe I'd missed, and just to see, is it true? And yes, inquiry really has been an incredible tool. And it's more of I wouldn't say an active form of meditation, but there is a process of answering questions and meditating into it, sitting with it, noticing what you're being shown, what you've missed.
You're so vast in what meditation is what it could possibly look like, which I love about you. With all the, you and Tony have given seminars in service all over this globe. You have traveled to India and China and Malaysia and, in these places maybe that we think of like where meditation is born and it's done this way. And you, and even we have done our share of like, alpha brainwave meditation or Kriya, the nose, the nostril isolation, nostril meditation.
Yes.
The sometimes words get put to it, vipassana or things that almost are intimidating, like Tony says, like in certain industries when there's this language and then you kind of get psyched out because you're like, I don't know what that means, whether it's the medical field or the financial field, or it's the same thing. I feel that even in when I step into this realm, and you have this ability, like a lot of folks have wrote in and said, how do you know you're doing it right? Or what's the way? Do you do this kind of meditation? Do you do this kind of meditation? And you're kind of like, I had this conversation with my sister and I questioned this thought. And of course, this is about meditation, but I want people to see, like you often use the word inquiry. You talked about Byron Katie's The Work, which is these 4 questions. So that's where the inquiry comes in. And many folks who teach meditation will say, you sit with your thoughts, You notice the thoughts that come up and you question their validity, you question the truth of this, or at the very least, you look at that thought and you don't judge it. You don't try to should or shouldn't it. You just accept that thought is coming in like a cloud through the sky. One of my outcomes of meditation would be, and people often promise this self-realization or seeing of oneself, know thyself. Socrates, or as we call him in this house, Socrates. 2,000 years ago, says this know thyself. And what does that mean? And everyone else like can see us. Why can't we see ourselves?
Yes.
And then we're the last to know. And so there's that curiosity in me that's like, I really want to know what objectively, what is the outside experience of what I'm like that I know I'm not seeing because we're too in our own stuff, or we're too busy defending as the human nature would often do. I'll speak for myself. When I sit there, oftentimes when I notice what my mind is doing in meditation, it will be building some defense or making some case for myself or justifying something I wish I hadn't done or wish I had done.
When that coherence starts to happen, or a greater level of harmony, all of a sudden mind or consciousness starts to notice something different. What I've noticed starts to translate in every waking experience or life just day to day is that as a circumstance comes up and maybe I feel hooked or I feel frustrated by a moment, it's like, okay, this is just a thought. This is just a thought, or whatever judgment it is. And as I identify with that thought, I suffer, as I get a little distance and, is this true? Or take a breath and it's like, oh my gosh, maybe just notice in the moment before possibly what I missed. I think that's the gift and the blessing of awareness, of alertness, of coming back to this moment, of being here now. Because it's so easy in a world of social media, in a world with news, and there's so much bombarding us with, just so much bombarding us.
Yeah. When's the last time you listened to a podcast or read a book or ate a meal without checking your texts or looking at an alert or something? We are so bombarded. So to have attention, again, I think that's another thing that's on my target when I talk about outcomes or results that I'm after in meditation. It's that ability to just be where I am and where I place my attention and not have something else dictate to me where to put it. And, I'm glad you brought up Michael Singer before. And so I grabbed 2 books last night when I knew we were going to sit down and have this conversation today. The other one is our friend Michael Singer's book. I can tell because I scribbled in here that I read it in 2015. And it's always great to go back and look at the notes you scribbled in here. But one of the things I had written on the inside cover that clearly was something that I had gleaned from reading Michael Singer's book, which to me, and I've heard a lot of people say this, reading this little tiny book was the first thing that opened up this understanding in my mind of like, wow, that little voice in there. Why haven't I thought about this? Why haven't I thought about her before? And so this book pointed that out to me, and I had written in the inside cover, now what used to hold me down becomes what wakes me up. Now what used to hold me down becomes what wakes me up. So whether it's a belief I had about myself that's cycling in my mind for the 100th time, or a belief that I've heard someone has about me, or that I've made up that someone has about me that's cycling in my mind for the 1000th time. Now I'm able to catch that, and that wakes me up to like, hey, that little punk in your mind, it's doing that thing again, and you are taking orders from it. Like, you're the boss. Like, I really like what you said there. It's only a dictator if you listen to it, rather than just like, these thoughts are coming up. Let them be. Let them pass through. Do you have meditations where you're like, oh, mind was chatting away today? Or are you like, do you still have those days where you're like, a little weasel today?
Well, I don't know if it's a day, but I have the moments where mind drifts, and I call it, invite my attention back to this moment here.
Little puppy.
And and just, follow my breath. And, it's like no big deal. Hey, come back here, and it's like the kindness of, if you have a child and, they're up to something or, wandering off, it's like, sweetheart, hey, let's come back this way. It's almost
being a little rascal.
It's like how beautiful to extend and offer that graciousness to oneself, to ourself. Just, it's like no big deal. And, what I've noticed the gift of being in my 40s is that life, starts to have a different level of inward flow. Simple things. This wasn't like something like, a big thing. I was like, gosh, I have to do this or I can never do this. It was just a happening. If I went on a plane before we'd go and if we were at the airport and I'd stop at a magazine store and I'd buy a bunch of magazines and be flipping through and seeing, who's doing what or who's wearing what or buying what or what the heck they were, or, things about their relationship individuals.
It's juicy.
And well, it was until it's not. It really was. And then all of a sudden, life became more interesting here and now rather than what was more interesting over there or externally. And that wasn't something I consciously thought, but I was reflecting last night and I was like, gosh, I don't know when that happened or why that happened, but it's a result. It was I guess that is a result.
Yeah.
The having that extend to, different level of mindfulness throughout my life. I just noticed myself making different decisions. It took, every morning I'd wake up and I'd check my phone and the news alerts when I was like, and it's like feeling all these things because I'm reading it and experiencing that. And so I took that off my phone. I turned the, whatever you call that thing, alerts off my phone. Yeah. I'm not on any social media whatsoever personally. And so it's given me the beautiful gift to have more time and space for myself. Yep. And I think like that's the most, is that self-love? I think that's a part of it.
Well, I do think it's a result of your practice of meditation. I feel myself, this gift that we have as human beings, that we're able to know that we're thinking and then to then realize like, wow, and then all these distractions are also coming in. How could I ever have room for the creativity that I want, the, whatever it is that you want to do with your life. If it's just this distraction from one distraction to the next, internally or externally, I know enough to know that's not how I'm going to go do great things, And so paring down the external distractions and then paring down the internal distractions. And that's, what? I made the same mistake. It's not paring down.
Yes, that's beautiful awareness. So you just caught yourself.
It's noticing. Yes. And then I think by noticing, it almost pares down.
Well, what you just did is exactly in my experience, mindfulness and meditation. You just caught yourself. That's what this beautiful life's about. It's catching yourself. I mean, Mary, I'm not the most athletic human being on the world.
True.
And you are. And so, you used to play soccer. And if you're to kick the ball into the goalpost.
What kind of ball?
If you're to kick it into the goal, I'm sure you didn't do that every time. And if you're at practice, you didn't do it every time. But then there's the times where you did.
Most times. No, I was kidding. With practice.
With practice.
Yep.
And I think like, gosh, we have such a huge expectation, or who am I say we have such a huge, I've had such a huge expectation. And, I dropped that and I dropped the notion of enlightenment, of awakening, because what life showed me was, gosh, that's in this moment. That's the only time that we can wake up is here now. You just did it. Yep. I'm just looking at you. We're here. This is this beautiful life. And for those of you that are listening right now, just take a look around, take a look at your surroundings, just see and what you've noticed, maybe just the moment before. Feel your breath. It's beautiful to be here now. And I think that is the greatest, most powerful, one of the most powerful, profound gifts of meditation is coming not even coming to the moment, because we're always in the moment. It's noticing it.
I felt it even in just that moment. It's like it can happen in
Yes.
10 seconds.
What did you feel?
Just
what
when
did
you
you
said,
experience?
like, I can't explain it. Like if I'm really, like you said, focusing and I'm holding on to just like what's going to come next. It's control. It's certainty. I realize that's what Tony would say. It is your driving need for certainty. I know, which I know is just a nice way to say your need for control, your illusion of control, some semblance of control in this life that I have none of.
Yes.
And then to just get quiet. I feel my heart like take a breath in that. And also there's this uncertainty of what the next sound we might hear could be or the emptiness of that. And that helps me to say, wow, I have no idea what I'm going to hear next or what I might notice next with my eyes, or that I feel like, oh, how cool is that? And I feel the need for certainty relax, and I feel myself settle into, wow, there's so much I'm not in control of, and I can be okay with that. And I can enjoy it, not just be okay with it. I can actually really enjoy it. And to me, that's like we're just sitting here.
Yeah.
And I have to manage my mind of like, don't ask a stupid question. Add value, make sure that this is entertaining or that folks are getting things from this. And then in a moment, it's like, you know what? Let's just have a conversation. Let's just be real. We're just sitting here. People want authenticity. Take a breath. Yeah. You just feel like this little anchor to this moment.
Well, that's beautiful.
That's it. I meditated. I did it.
That's a beautiful thing. Your vulnerability and your honesty and sincerity. I think it's a really beautiful thing as human beings, as we drop defense, life is kinder that next breath. We don't need to be a certain way. I think that's the gift of this human experience. We get to be where I'm uniquely me, you're uniquely you. Matt, hi. I love your beard. I love who you are, how you express yourself. We all animate and express life uniquely. I think that's just so beautiful and freaking phenomenal. The alignment of where we all meet of this human experience, and then just the beauty of how we all express. That's cool.
It's cool. Even just like a 10-second moment, you can touch upon that. That is a meditation. You're making this really easy for us, Sage Robbins. Thank you.
Well, that's the intent. I think, for those of you, I was reading your questions, and we can be so hard on ourselves, and I've been that human being. So, the intent here was just to simply share the experience and share many paths that, really all beautifully end us up in the same place. And I don't know if it's meditation. I don't know if it's stage of life. But there's no other place I'd rather be than here now. And there's a freedom in that. And as I go forward, when I catch myself, if I'm future paced, bringing my attention, my awareness, my back to this moment, it just, no matter what's happening in the external world, it's like, hey, I'm alive. Looking at Mickey Singer's book here, one of the beautiful gifts of that book was chapter 17.
The Untethered Soul.
Yeah, the Untethered Soul, chapter 17. And, he talks about, how death is such an amazing teacher. And you talk about, we have no control. We don't know what the next sound is going to be. We don't even know if we're going to be here tomorrow. None of us.
We don't.
None of us, or an hour from now. And so, we are here, and life is a miracle, and it's a gift to be alive. No matter what is happening, it's a gift to have this experience, to feel these sensations, to see what you're seeing, to, all these beautiful miracles that of just life happening through us, as us. I think that's the gift of that reminder of the preciousness. And meditation has brought that more to life for me. And when I forget, that's the gift of this life. Waking up is in this moment, that's the gift of recognizing that we're already home.
It's true. We're already home. Here we are. And I think that's the gift of the other side of a meditation is the feeling that you are able to experience that in your waking, out of meditation, in your waking moments. It's there with you. I can feel it. You're a meditator, aren't you?
Who's ever listening? You're a meditator, aren't you? I think that's a beautiful statement.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful reality. Because we all are. It's our nature.
It's true. And we are meditating. Tone would say, some people say, I'm not getting results. And Tony would say, you're always getting results.
Yes.
They just might not be the results that you want. In that same way, we're always meditating. If you stop and watch, your mind is always meditating on something. It might just be the circus and not the miracle. I get it. I think I get it.
Well, that's cool. That's a beautiful thing.
One thing I feel like I'm learning in real time from this conversation with you is what I want from meditation and what I'm trying to get away from. And so at our seminars, Tony teaches about towards values, moving towards values, and moving away from values. And they're two very powerful things. And also people are motivated stronger. Some by what they want, some by what they don't want, right? You can probably guess by listening to this what motivates me most. So it won't surprise you when I say that I think I was approaching meditation by aiming at avoiding this like restlessness of mind and body rather than moving towards these enormous, profound insights into life on this spinning planet and the nature of what it is to be a human being with a heart beating in our chest. I want more of that. I want to move towards that.
Me too. Every day. Only every day.
Every day. You're laughing. Are you laughing because this is so simplistic?
I'm laughing because it's beautiful when we recognize, yes, the simplicity and the beautiful opportunity that life allows us or life gifts us to notice the preciousness, to notice the gift, to notice what's here now. I think there's nothing more gorgeous in the human experience than this moment. And, we've mentioned many different, Byron Katie and Michael Singer. I also have to mention that Tone does a beautiful priming experience and a gratitude meditation. And at the beginning, it's a guided meditation that you go through and think of what you're grateful for, and it's a really beautiful process because it's once again it's just guiding the attention. Our attention is such a precious commodity, and to be able to guide it, invite it to gratitude, to beauty, to what's beautiful and blessed in our lives. I think that's an incredible gift because there's so much distracting us to what's wrong, what's off, what's wrong about us, what's wrong about the world, what's wrong about, and it's just beautiful to step to an expanded perception and to guide that process. So those of you that are interested, we'll make sure that we, have the link of that priming experience because it's incredibly profound and impactful for people.
It's a great place to start, I think, too, if you are just starting out Tony Robbins priming. Well, I hope that listening to this conversation has made you want to meditate, has made it, I actually feel an excitement right now. It doesn't feel like this, this thing I should do. It feels like this thing I really look forward to doing.
Well, I'm
not doing. A place to go. It feels like a place I'm excited to go within, without. It's not a doing. I'm catching myself every moment.
That's all that we can ever do.
Yeah.
You know, I'll share a couple tips that I have found helpful. By the way, you do not have to do this. There's no right and wrong in this process. And if you hear this and you think it's a little nutty, then please drop this part. So something that I've found to be helpful, right before I meditate, I'll stand up and I just shake. I'll shake my hands, I'll shake my arm, my whole body. And it's almost like going on linear, like I'm not doing it for anybody else, just, and I'll say to myself, like, I release and I let go, I release and I let go. And it's just letting go of what's no longer needed in that moment. And I feel like that's like, it just gets, it just creates like an unbound space rather than sitting there and it's like being more in mind. I just feel like that alone. And then as I sit down,
I want to just mention first, it's like, it's also goes back to exactly what Tony teaches, that foundation is always physiology first.
Yes.
So if you are someone who might be, described as a little uptight, I'll speak for myself. You got to just shake it out. It's the same thing that we would do when people are like, why are you always jumping around at those Tony Robbins seminars?
Yes,
why
so
is everybody
true.
jumping? It's like, well, you jump around because there is a physiological, your body will have a response, a cascade of hormones just by movement. And so give yourself an edge just by shaking it out. Because sometimes we've been sitting at a desk all day, or your body is carrying, there's the book that's popular, The Body Keeps Score. Our body holds on to a lot of things. So Sage is saying, step one, shake it out.
Shake it out.
Shake what your mama gave you. Non-linear, she calls it, which just looks a little crazy. I've seen you do it.
It does look a little odd, a little strange. But once again, this isn't for anybody but yourself. And by the way, I'm not doing that for a long period of time. Sometimes, I don't even know, maybe like 10 seconds. Yeah. And then as I sit down, I'll make the sound of ah, and I'll just be like, ah. And I'll continue doing that until I run out of breath. And there's something about the physicality and as well the sound that it's like, okay, for myself, it's easier to just drop into that space.
You've suggested that with me too. And I also want to clarify. So it's not like an ohm. It's like a sound, like whatever comes out of your mouth. It's just like, like it can vary, like get, if you have an emotion and it has like a tone to it, just let that
release
out
it.
of your body in the same way that you're shaking it out physically, you're letting it out auditorily, just another submodality to just get energy moving.
And by the way, I don't do this if I'm just doing a 2-minute meditation outside, or I don't do this if I'm doing a nature meditation. I do this when I actually do a sit meditation. And I just feel like it helps to create some unbound rather than bound energy, and it's just releasing. We're physical body, we're energetic, we're spiritual beings. It just, it opens the channels.
So you shake it out, you let it out, and then you sit down in your position. Tell me what your position looks like. Do you have to do something special with your
No, you can sit
fingers?
No, not a bit.
Okay.
You can. Once again, if that's your path and that's what you've been drawn to and that's your practice, then beautiful. If you do certain postures or asanas, that's beautiful. If that's what's true for you. If you want to just sit so that you're completely comfortable. Once again, this isn't about perfection. This isn't about being in a precise way. This is it just simply experiencing. There's no right or wrong way to it. This is not a formula. This isn't something that you have to do. It's just experientially something that resonates for me. I just love to tune in once again to the miracle and the gift of life. That's the most sincere and accurate experience and perception and reality. We are all so blessed. Look at how we're supported we are. Whatever you're listening to this on or watching this, whatever device, what a miracle. If you're laying down or if you're walking or driving a car, what a miracle. Like, we're so gifted with such a level of abundance. If you're sitting on a chair or, sitting on the ground, like, we are, always taken care of. And yes,
you're lucky enough to have legs to
and
sit on.
Supported. I think that is, a lot of times missed. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for tuning in to this conversation, but also to yourself, because there's no more beautiful place to be. So bless you on your journey, and God bless. Thank you.
Looking forward to hearing from you all in comments and responses. Thanks for sharing this with us. See you again soon.
We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.